So recently, I randomly searched up the RX 6800 XT on the Sex store and saw that it was only £325. And I'm like, what? When I bought mine around 10 months ago, it was £400. This got me thinking, since it's at such a low price, is it worth buying in 2025? And that's what I'm going to test today. Okay, so the first game we'll be testing is BeamNG.drive. I have deactivated all my 117 mods, just in case that impacts performance. And we are going to be using the Ultra preset, which isn't max graphics, but we'll test that out later. Okay, so I've just spawned into East Coast, and we're currently getting around 104 FPS. So let's start driving about and see if it dips. Also, I'm using the Vulkan renderer since it works better on AMD GPUs, but I'll test out the DX11 renderer in a bit. So currently in the city area, we're getting about 112-ish FPS, and the game feels buttery smooth since that frame time graph is very flat. Oh yeah, also I forgot to mention this is also running at 1440p as well. Also, our 0.1 and 1% lows are looking very good, like 75 FPS, very nice, and there's been no major stutters as well. The GPU usage is going down a little bit. I'm not sure why, because I've got a 9800X3D, although that could be bottlenecking it a tiny bit since I'm recording as well. But in this dense area of trees, we are starting to dip a little bit in FPS. We're getting currently about 90-ish FPS, which is still very playable for BeamNG.drive. So the FPS seems to be sticking around 100 FPS, which is very smooth. Also, we are using around 8GB of VRAM. This is actually quite good for a game running at ultra settings on 1440p. Okay, so we've just spawned into West Coast, and we're getting around 100 FPS still. Also, bear in mind, West Coast is the most intensive map in BeamNG, at least I think so, and it seems to be running very smooth still. We are also sometimes seeing 120 FPS. Okay, right, so we're back up here, and what I'm going to do is max out all the settings. So we're going to max out the dynamic resolution and the update rate as well. And also the detail and distance, because why not? Okay, so now we are getting around 60-ish FPS, which is still playable, but there's not much of a visual difference. The only differences that you can really notice is the mirrors and the reflections on the car. Okay, so now let's drop these settings to high. Okay, so now we're getting about 120 FPS. The only really visual difference is that the shadows are a little bit softer, but overall, there's not much of a difference. But the performance increase is quite drastic. We're getting about 130, 140-ish FPS. Okay, right, so now the game is running in DirectX 11 at the Ultra preset, and we are getting quite a lot less FPS. We're getting about 70. The frame time graph doesn't feel as smooth, like the game feels very jittery. Also, it seems like the GPU is not being utilised 100%. I don't know why. The only thing I'm thinking is it has to be a CPU bottleneck somehow. But you can't really get a better CPU than the 9800X3D. Okay, right, let's test out the Crew Motorfest. Okay, what is going on? Why is the screen so small? Also, the Crew Motorfest just decided to completely crash my PC. So this is the second boot, and that's just gone off my screen. That's great. And that's even more great. Okay, right, I think I've finally got it working. So we're running it at 1440p with TAA and FXAA. VSync off, and the frame rate is set to 60 since that's the max FPS you can actually get in this game. We are running it at the Ultra preset. There is motion blur that's not on Ultra, but that does not make a difference to the performance, so I'll just leave it on high. Okay, so the game is running at a stable 60 FPS, although there has been some occasional, like, quite big stutters, which is not great, but it seems to have kind of stabled out now. We are also only getting around 70% utilization on our GPU. This could be running at around 100 FPS if there wasn't a frame cap. The game does look a little bit fuzzy, since TAA and FXAA aren't the best anti-aliasing methods. There should be like FSR 3.1, 4. There might be DLSS, but I don't play on Nvidia, so I don't know. But yeah, this game's running very well and is a very playable experience. Let's test out one more game. Okay, so we're playing GTA 5 Enhanced at very high RT presets. These are the settings, no frame scaling, so no FSR. And let's check the frames. Okay, so we're getting above 60 FPS. I also do have depth of field and motion blur on, but that's just preference. It doesn't affect performance. I wonder if it will dip below 60 in like a dense area. We are currently sitting around 80-ish FPS, which is quite impressive. The game also does look fantastic as well. The frame time graph is also very smooth. The 0.1% lows are a little bit low, and the 1% lows, I can't really feel any of like the micro stutters or anything. Also, excuse my driving, I am not the best on keyboard.
Triple kill!
Okay, well that's great, now the police are after us.
Crikey, it's the Rozzers.
Anyway, the game does seem to be having a couple stutters in this area, which are noticeable, but they're not too bad. These settings are very nice for GTA, since you get an above 60 FPS experience in practically all areas, and the graphics look really good. Okay, right, now let's test out the maximum RT preset. This maxes out practically everything, but we still have no frame scaling, and extended shadow distance is still at minimum, but there's not much of a difference in visuals. Okay, wow, we are still getting a semi-playable experience, although the stutters are pretty bad. Although that could just be loading in all the new ray tracing. The game doesn't look too much different than the very high, but the reflections do look a bit sharper, especially the car's reflections. Okay, right, let's now test it with FSR 3 on the balanced preset. Okay, well, this is a lot better experience. We're getting around 90 FPS, and there isn't much of a visual difference since FSR 3.1 is quite good for GTA. The frame time graph looks pretty nice, there's not too many massive stutters, and this is how I would usually play GTA 5 Enhanced. But yeah, there's not really much else to say. The game looks good, it's running very well, and yeah. So in conclusion, should you buy the RX 6800 XT? Well, if you want a new graphics card second hand, then I'll definitely recommend it. But if you prefer buying a graphics card new, then I'd recommend the RX 9060 XT 16GB. It also performs a little bit worse, but you're paying a little bit extra for a new graphics card, and you also get FSR 4 as well, which is a plus. And on the NVIDIA side, there's not really that much that compares. The RTX 3080 is close, but the price is a little bit more, and the VRAM is a little bit lower, so you might have more frequent stutters. Also, if this video does well, I will test out my RTX 3070 Ti that I have laying about. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe, and join the Discord if you haven't already. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.